Uh, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nuri Purwito Adi. I am your Master of Ceremony and also moderator for the today's webinar, uh, Human Technology and Organization Approach in Occupational Health Services, from risk assessment to required medical explanation for high-risk exposure. So thank you so much for the participation who are attending the session offline at the Ruang Kuliah Madya at the Bengt Sahlin and also participants who are joining this session online. First of all, I would like to give a brief safety briefing for the one who attending offline. Please be careful when you are going down from this meeting room because you will go through the stairs. So please make sure that you are holding the handrail of the stairs. And all of the toilets are located in the first floor, so you need to go down. And be careful also when you go down because the pillar is quite low. So please find your head when you are going down, especially for Pak Bambang. Please mind your head when you are going down. So I want to make sure that no accident today. We don't have any drill. So if there is emergency, there will be a alarm, and we will go down and we will go to the master area, which are located in the parking spot. Okay, for the first session, we would like to start the session by singing the national anthem of Indonesia. So we will sing together. So for the audience, national anthem of Indonesia, joining the session, we will sing together. So for the audience, national anthem of Indonesia, joining the session, we will sing together. Baik, yang sudah suaranya. Selanjutnya akan dimulai dengan sambutan-sambutan. Yang pertama adalah sambutan. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I can speak in English. So the first is opening speech from our head of the study program of Master of Occupational Medicine at the Faculty of Medicine of Indonesia. This will have a result the international.
Thank you very much. Good morning. So, good morning, everybody. I think I'm going to that. So, then you see, our lead and our staff member and thank you for this event. So this event is very important to us because we'll give some of information, especially for the about the environment on the workplace, who has a lot of contact in there. And then we have event to our employees. So after that, we can learn from the risk, especially for the hiring. For our main of our main points. Also, we can benefit. Yeah, not only information and implementation. Maybe benefit on one thing. Maybe very much for coming, and I hope that the event and also the seminar will be success and give thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So that's all the speech. And next, all the speech will be delivered by our Department of Community Medicine, Faculty of Medicine. Is penerapan.
Yeah. Bengt Sahlin. We have Indonesian name. Welcome to our department here in very good building of and all new there the HTO is Jumat technology and application. So I think we all have to this is the here, because I think it's very important for us as a doctor, especially for doctors who, maybe population workers, population community, and also, aviation, community and also, other because we feel the environment has changed. It usually, in terms of knowledge, we have just like doing but they really work there. And this that's all is contributed by and also I would like to introduce to you and that other department program. Well, all one thing we got based on community facing the senior consultant in consultant project, and he has a background of a master's program in technology, work and health, from so, okay, social person today, and hopefully it's all of that. You can find all
Tes suaranya apakah terdengar untuk yang online? Mohon izin.
Jelas, Dok.
Suaranya apakah lebih jelas?
Jelas, Dok.
Jelas dok.
Dengar dok.
Itu yang berkembang.
Okay, so we will continue for the next session. This is the main session that we have a speaker, Dr. Bengt Sahlin, but he already has Indonesian name. So we call him Pak Bambang because he previously worked with the ILO office in Jakarta. And since then, I think he got the new name, Indonesian name, Pak Bambang. So maybe later, participant can call him Pak Bambang for the local wisdom. Okay. I hope that the online participant can hear clearly now. Oh, okay. Okay. We will hold the session for a while for the photo session. Okay, you may start.
Thank you for receiving me in this location. Very nice area and very nice people as usual. I'm very happy to be back here in Indonesia with my wife, and hopefully I can also contribute a little bit for exchange of experience. You can ask me questions. I will give you some facts, but I also will explain little how I work. I am a civil engineer from beginning, and after designing nuclear power stations, water treatment plants, I became an environmental inspector. And after that, I enrolled myself and was trained as an occupational safety and health engineer. And I've been working with that for almost 50 years now. So in different type of industries, branches of industries, but mainly I have been working together with doctors, nurses, physiotherapists in occupational health centers. But I'm not a researcher as such, but when you work in a construction site, for example, you make risk assessment, and with this risk assessment, you go to your doctor and tell them this is necessary to have a medical examination of these people. Or if the doctor, he comes to me and says, I have a sick person here. I don't know why this person is sick. So can you help me to make an examination of the workplace so we can verify what is the cause of this sickness? So that's why I'm very happy to be here with all these medical doctors. We are lacking medical doctors with your profession in Sweden, actually. So hopefully I can recruit someone from you to come to Sweden. Well, as an occupational safety and health engineer, I also got engaged in disaster relief team. This is from Somalia, the pictures. But I will try to explain a little bit about safety culture and how we work in Sweden. Let's see here. It doesn't go forward. Can you?
Next slide.
Yeah. It's not in the. Maybe the battery.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Now working. Good. In Sweden, we have a very long tradition, actually, of working together. Workers, trade unions, employers. So we, at the workplaces, we elect safety delegates if we have more than 5 person employed. And we are training both the supervisors and the safety delegates with a special type of training together, so we can develop the collaboration between workers and employers. And we also have senior safety delegates if there are more than 1 safety delegate at the workplace. We also have regional safety delegates from the trade union, for example, in construction sites. And we also, if you are more than 50 person in the workplace, we have safety committees. And the safety committees then try to regulate what kind of standard of safety and health issues we should have at the workplace. The organizations I am working with is the Work Environment Authority, or Arbetsmiljöverket, as we call it. We also have a collective insurance in Sweden, which makes the companies to have insurance for their worker. So if they are having some sort of illness related to the workplace, they can actually be covered by this insurance and get payment for rehabilitation and other things. And that is very important, because then we get good statistic on what kind of type of sickness or diseases they have. And then I get involved as a safety engineer to verify that they have been exposed to certain type of, for example, chemicals, which causing this type of diseases. We also have an organization called Prevent, and Prevent is employer and workers organization together. And through Prevent, we develop a lot of training and information material. And recently we updated the checklist I took part in making long time ago. It was updated because of new legislations. And we have it also in English, this type of checklist. And I have on the USB stick, we have now possibilities to maybe put it on your website or something, so you can share, we can share it. In Europe, we also have a European Work Environment Bureau. And that bureau is developing a lot of information and training materials, risk assessment tools and so on, in all European languages. So you can actually connect to that and try to download information in English, for example. If you speak French or German, Polish or Swedish, you can download information through that way. So these organizations are quite good resources, and they have also information in English. But what is a good working environment? On the left pictures, you can see an office, 1902. And actually, it's a relative of mine who sits in front here. And then you can see the working environment much later. Of course, there is a difference. She had one telephone and one typewriter, and now we have computers and totally different. And that's one of the interesting things which we have, my duty over 50 years. I can have seen how the working environment has developed. We can see how different type of diseases are developing. We can see how we have, through promotion and preventive activity, got less information or less diseases or less injuries. Full size or? Okay. So what is then a good working environment from my point of view? Maybe in Sweden we think about it. From beginning, we talked very much about physical factors, noise, vibration, and so on. Nowadays, we have like a piece of puzzle. We have organization, and the management is very important for a good working environment. The social factors in our environment has become more important also, and also the individual factors. If we have I go back. If a person gets a work to be done which is very physically heavy, you have like climbing up on stairs, climbing up on windmills and so on. You have to have a certain physical standard to be able to carry out the work. If you're put to do such type of work, you might get sick instead. So there are these main factors which we have to look upon in a work environment place and look upon for workers to carry out in a good working environment. And of course, it's interesting to see what kind of work are we doing. We are looking at the risk assessment. We are looking at physical disability, and sometimes our employer or supervisors get a little angry because we are pointing out that this is a failure of the company that has caused this disease. But we should also think the positive part. What is your work doing to prevent, to rehabilitate people? Yeah, you can see it as it is a benefit. You are winning and even retaining business and customers. If you can show that you have a good working environment when you are bidding for a construction site, for example, then you will be valued higher in Sweden. And you will get more work. But also to get new persons employed with specialties like from technical point of view. You have to show that you have a good working environment. Otherwise, they won't take up the task. So there are a lot of benefits. So we should think about, okay, we're looking at risks. We are looking at maybe failures of the organizations, but your work will benefit the organization as such. I rely very much upon different type of statistic because I have to prioritize different type of, should we say, risks. So in Sweden, we have about 6 million employees. We have fatal injuries, which is around 55 fatal injuries. It's quite low, one of the lowest in the world. But the branch which is especially heavy in fatal injuries is the construction industry. So last year we had 17%, and it was a big arguing. Why don't we have 0 fatal injuries? And I then look back, and I can see that during my 50 years, we have gone from 500 fatal injuries to 50 fatal injuries. So what is the success factor for that? And I've compared different legislations in different countries. And I found out that it is the collaboration between the workers and employers which is the success factor. So we have to increase the awareness of workers and the employers, and we have to have them to work together more. Then we can be successful in preventing injuries. But if we look upon the specific injuries, and I'm more in the construction industry recently, so loss control of vehicles, loss control of hand tools, for example, but also very much fall from height, but also fall from the same level. Okay. So you can see that also body movements where you are overloading your body is one of the main causes of accidents, we can say. If we then go from accident, no, it is not working. If we now go from accident to occupational diseases, we can see, for example, in construction industry, that physical factors, including vibration, noise, is one of the major injuries or providing or give you a disease. But also the ergonomic part, where you're long-term overloading your joints, for example, and muscles is one of the major parts. Chemicals has been causing a lot of occupational diseases earlier. That is going down. We are sorting out chemicals. We're getting rid of asbestos, for example. That is very good news because less causes of cancer, for example. The social and organizational factors, like stress-related diseases, that is actually increasing more and more. And that is also causing suicide in your in the workplace. If we see at the recent report, we can see that in Sweden that over 3,000 persons die earlier because of different factors in the working environment. And if we look a little bit closer into that area, you can say that 120 suicides every year is caused by the workplace, stress and bullying. Asbestos, silicosis, and other lung diseases is causing earlier death for between 100 and 500 people. It's very difficult to exactly know. While you can say stress, high workload, noise, fumes, long physical heavy workload causes over 500 too early death. And then COVID, we found out it was about 5 deaths or fatal caused by, should say, spreading at the workplace. The branches which actually have higher percentual rate of fatal injuries and occupational diseases is small and medium-sized enterprises with less than 19 employees. There you have the big rate. And there is a lack of knowledge, lack of prevention, which is causing this. I have also taken up a report from Mr. Jukka Takala, who was the chief of ILO safety. And he says that 2.9 million deaths globally because of both injuries, work-related diseases. And there you can also see work-related diseases causes 2.58 million deaths, while occupational injuries is 0.32 million. So medical doctors has a very important role in preventing all this death all around the world. But also the collaboration between an engineer like me and a medical doctor is important. So we know how to prevent things. And if we look upon this, you can say that circulatory diseases is like 900,000 globally. Work-related malignant neoplasmal cancer and so on is about 840,000. You can see the dimension of the fatal injuries and diseases is enormous. What is said in this report is also that psychosocial factors increases from global terms, like in Sweden. Here is another type of data from 1929 to 21. You can see here occupational injuries are 385, and then you can see also that biological risks are also on increase. Malignant neoplasma and also other things. You can look at the statistic as such. And that means that if I work for prevention, I need to know that this is the facts, how to prevent these things. And we have to cooperate together with several people in this area of medical medicine. From accident point of view, we used to say that on every death we have around 30 severe injuries. We have around 300 minor injuries, 300 incident, and 30,000 unsafe conditions or observations. So my duty as a safety engineer will be to try to find out and get reported the incident and unsafe conditions. The more I have of them, the better I prevent severe injuries or even fatal injuries. So in Sweden, we have developed a special system, and it's free of charge for all the company who has collective agreement. We have a reporting system, so you can pick up your mobile phone, take a photo, send a report to the safety engineer, for example, who then it goes into the whole system. So we get good statistics. And I used to get about 15 to 20 reports per each minor injury, and have never had any severe injuries in the construction sites where I have been working. So it has a very good connection. Statistics do easy reporting in the system. And this system we have in different languages in Sweden, so it can be used. So I always introduce this to the construction industry where I've been working. From legal point of view, we have a Work Environment Act. We have something called work regulations. We have then provisions, which the Work Environment Authority is then handling. And below that, we have systematic work environment management system. So this is the regulations, we can say. And I used to write a lot of these instructions for the companies and regulations, but not only write, you have to implement them. You have to go out to the workers and the supervisors to show them what we're meaning with these instructions. So one of the basics in our work environment management system is that the employer should investigate, implement, and monitor activities so that ill health and accidents at work are prevented, and a satisfactory work environment is achieved, meaning that the social factors has to also be involved in this. And that's why I'm not going to go through every point of this, but it has to be, the working environment has to be examined. And if there is any ill health or accident, we have to invest that. And that's why we are coming into an investigation based on human, technology, and organization, HTO. So there is a special provisions also for in Sweden where we take up the organizational and social work environment. It's a legal requirement to have an analysis of this, to make inquiries about it. It's also compulsory to adjust work to person. It can be a person who has some disability. The employer has to adjust the work to that disability workplace. We have a requirement of first aid and crisis support. And every new construction site, we have to write new instructions because it has to be adapted to the situation of the construction. And as you can see, we even have some legal requirements on minors working environment. There are certain work that is forbidden for younger persons than 15, 16 years old, you know. And if you look upon this planning and organization, the employer have to have some goals for this organizational social work environment. These goals aims to promote health and increase the organization's ability to counteract ill health. For example, if someone is bullied or have a very high stress level, the organization has to have some routines to be able to interact. And medical doctor quite often comes into that situation. The person comes, is sick. What is the cause of the sickness? Is it something physical, organizational? Is it from social point of view? Or is it the person's life as such outside of the work? This has to be routines to find out and to examine, you know. So the deficiency in the organization can cause increased risk of health, sleep disorder, cardiovascular diseases, back problems, depressions, and so on. And sometimes when I do inspections at an office, for example, I try to look at the shoulders of the people sitting at a computer. If the shoulders is very close to the ear, what is going on? I have to ask. Are you stressed? Oh no, I'm not stressed. What? You tap on the shoulder and the people start to relax. So that's one of the easiest way of checking stress-related disease in an office, is to check how near the shoulders are sitting the ear. And you probably have experience of that also. So if we look upon the HTO as such, we can say that both accident and ill health are often caused by a combination of humans, technology, and organizational factors. And these human factors, like lack of training, for example, I can see sometimes the handling equipment in a very strange way. Technical factors, yes, how the workplace is built up, how the machineries are designed, for example, but also organizational factors. How many people are doing this work? Are they stressed because there are too few people doing the work? Or do they have a manager who is bullying the staff, or do they have anyone among the staff who is bullying the manager? It can be both ways. So it's not that easy to then make the investigation of the HTO as such. So you have to know to develop this investigation so you can create different shields, as we say, between organization, technology, and so on. But if there is any hole in this shields, we will be able to see that this can cause an accident. So it's very important to have this idea that investigation, planning in an early stage, we can create these shields. And if we then look upon what do we mean in more details about the human, we can say motivation, competence, knowledge, qualification. All this has to be actually clarified. If you look at the technology, it's the ergonomics, how the first aid, clothing, vehicles, and so on. And then on an organizational point of view, there are routines. Are there enough of instructions? How about the leadership? You can see there is rather many factors that we have to consider when we make this type of investigations. But the more or the better in, should we say, collaboration we have, both between workers and employer, but also with occupational safety and health staff, the easier we can get this verified, where there is a breach in the barrier. So very often I'm getting involved in different type of investigations, and then we have to see the social conditions. We have to see how the interaction between technology and organizational forms, We have to understand the interaction here. And it's not so easy understandable among the workers or employers. You have to be an expert to do this understanding. You have to find underlying factors, for example. And we also use very often different type of checklists. So in different type of branches or different type of workplaces. And I have in this USB stick given to Dr. that we have a checklist of different kinds in English. So you can have that an example. If an accident happens, this is a checklist over what I have to go through when an accident have happened. Not only the actual situation when it happens, what was the situation before? What was the preparation of the work? Has it been done any type of risk assessment before? What was the operating mood, weather, deviations, and so on? All this has to be included in my investigations. And we come also at the end, you know, hospital care. Do we have any first aid emergency? And in all our workplaces, whether they're construction sites or whether it's a permanent factory or office, we have to have some preparedness for first aid and crisis support. And we used to say that you have to be able to give first aid within 5 minutes and crisis support within maybe 1 hour. And then you have to have routines for this. And you have to have facilities, equipment for it. And people have to exercise how to deal with different type of emergency. Not only emergency if someone is badly injured, but also fire, if there is violence at the workplace and so on. So the first aid knowledge will be trained. In Sweden, we have not set specific numbers. We say a sufficient number of individuals should be trained on first aid. And depending on what kind of workplace it is, there should be trained on different type of equipment also. So we used to say that the organization and social work environment has to come in to all our planning and organization of a workplace, because there are concepts of different kinds. There are demands in the work, there are victimizations at the work, there are unhealthy workload, the organizational work environment, how many supervisors we have, for example. Is there enough of resources for work, and social work environment? How do we gather people? So I will say that this is the most important thing in Sweden at the moment. Victimization, there's too big demands of work. Where workload is coming up more and more. And you can see in different countries, there are differences. And one of the reasons why there are differences is that men and women in Sweden are working full time often. So how should we handle the daily activities with children, for example? And it's actually, in my opinion, one of the bases for that we have stress-related diseases more and more in Sweden. And we today, according to the legislation, require that the supervisor should have knowledge about this kind of stress, victimization, and so on, and how to handle it. And here is an example. This woman came to the doctor. She had problem with sleepless. She couldn't sleep. She was sometimes vomiting, and her joint were aching. And she thought it came from the chemicals in the machinery room where you're cleaning, because there was the chemical. But I looked at the chemicals. I couldn't see that the chemicals was involved in this type. So we looked at her workplace and her work and her organization. So I called in the psychiatrist, and she looked at the workplace, and we found out that It was stress related. But the ergonomics said also that this woman has been working in another industry before. And now she is working handling more heavy material, but her joints were worn out in the other industry. She was handling a lot of small things. Now she came handling a little bit heavier. So we have to reorganize the whole kitchen, you know. So instead of serving like this, the customer had to pick up the food themselves. So from beginning, it was an earlier injury. We have to examine that and have some rehabilitation for her. But also the organization of the work, it was not the chemical which she thought it was. So that's where we had this combination of examination between me as an engineer, physiotherapist, psychiatrist, and the doctors to get the right answer, what to do about things. So then, if one person is injured at the workplace, probably there are more that will come up and be injured. That's why we make this type of, should we say, workplace inquiry. Of more than 5 to 6 people, we can have these inquiries. And then we then get to know more about the employees as such, the employees outside work, the job duties as such, and also the working environment. And this is very important, in my opinion, because of every person who gets sick and goes to the doctor, there are 5 coming up and can become sick. So if we make a good investigation, we can prevent these 5 people to get sick, you know. So there is a questions guide. This questions guide exists actually also in English, and I have put a copy of that in the USB stick. So maybe if there are interest among the students, you can take part in that type of information. We have other like self-assessment safety culture, which we also divide among the workers. We also have methods when you are changing a workplace quite a lot. We have methods of management during changing work, because changing work can cause some also problem with, should we say, stress-related diseases, for example. The safety culture indicator is very important also. We can see before a change and after a change, or before improvements and after improvements, we can evaluate was this good and which area do we need to make more improvement. And we called it, one of the inquiry is called OSA. It's Organizational Social Working Environment Inquiry. And that can be done over internet in groups, supplied by this Prevent organization, for example. And the survey is then free of charge. So it takes up work organization, workload demands, room for action, leadership, support, knowledge, recovery, safety, health, and important health factors. So inquiries like this in a modern organization is quite important, because then you can see where do we need to have the improvements. For example, if we go into a service technicians, we looked upon the design of a service of this place. We found out that design has not considered how this person is going to work with service in this place. So what happened then? Heat and burn skin was there. A lot of screwing involving long-term injuries of his hand. Overload when lifting and fitting in things. Risk for crushing hands and fingers. Risk for falling. Electrical accidents. Noise. bad illumination, and there are no safety rules known at the workplace. Can you imagine someone sitting planning for a service technician's environment without considering safety and health issues? That's why planning of new workplaces is a very important issue, and that both the medical doctor and the physiotherapists and even organizational people and me as a safety engineer can be involved in. Here is a heavy metal work industry. Any idea what kind of risks there are in heavy metal industry? Heat, yes. Another? Fumes, yes. Different kind of fumes. Dust. Any other idea? The heavy metals, handling of that, what? Yeah. Lifting is one. Noise. And we made a hearing in the examination of all the workers, you know. And we found out that the earplugs was not sufficient enough. They had to improve the earplugs. But we found that the management, the supervisors who walks through here, who not steady standing there, then I had a hearing loss on the right ear. Can you imagine what the cause was for that hearing loss? No, when they walked through here, it was about 90 decibel in average, and sometimes top up to 100 decibel. They didn't use the hearing protection. They were talking in mobile phones and had hearing protection here. But talking in mobile phone, you get exposed to the noise. So by doing this, by medical examination of the hearing losses, and we started to find out what is the reason for the hearing loss. And we found out that, okay, it was the behavior of this person. So then we can say, okay, you have to have a Bluetooth earphones so you can communicate without having the earphones going out like this. You know? Because 100 decibel, how many minutes can you be exposed for that? That's only a few minutes per day. And we found out that they were passing through this area at least half an hour a day without any ear protection. And that course, so here you can understand the combination with examination of safety engineers and medical doctors, and then find the way to prevent it. Another thing in construction site, for example, is that we sometimes have explosives. We go over an area where there were explosives used before. Are there any explosive left in the ground? Now when we are digging it up, we use dogs to sniff out if there are explosives in the ground. And if they find something, then we have to make a specific precaution when we are blasting next time, or when we are digging next time, you know. Other specific areas of interest is that when we are excavating, nowadays we have to be careful, because if we excavate in a town, there has to be archaeological studies. So we found in a specific project, we found 12 old boats in the area where we should excavate. So we had to have the archaeological people there to dig, and their environment was not very good. So we had to make investigation of that. Here is a very common sight nowadays, because we are electrifying the whole Swedish society, more or less. We are going to be fossil free from beginning, meaning that we have new type of work. And this guy is standing on a ladder doing some assembling. Can you imagine if there is any risk by standing like this and doing this kind of movements? Yeah, he can fall down because the ladder is not stable that way. It's only stable that way. But he didn't understand that. So we have to fix it by having another type of lift so he can go up and down. Yeah. But I asked him, why don't you wear this special vest, you know? There should be a yellow vest. But he said, I cannot wear it because the bees, the wild bees, they are attracted to my color. So he has been stung several times. And that was also very, I never thought of that. So we have to give him another color of the vest, a red color instead of the yellow color. So there are other things coming up. And if he would have been allergic for bee sting, that could be very severe situation for him, you know. And there are new type of, should I say, branches of industries. In Sweden now, the wind power have come up. Wind power means working at heights. What does that mean for you as a medical officer? That means that you have to examine according to the legislation, make specific examination work at height. And they have to control the physical conditions of the person. We have a lot of hydropowers in Sweden. Working near a hydropower can mean drowning. That means that we have to prepare the people what to do to prevent drowning. And if someone is drowning, how do we have the first aid examination? We have nuclear power stations in Sweden with radiation. And the radiation can mean quite a lot of things also for a worker. And there has to be both control radiation, but also medical examination of the workers. We also work more and more underground, tunnel system, drilling tunnel system. And you can see the tunnel boring machine, 5 meters in diameter, 200 meters long. And what kind of problem is it to work in the tunnel from occupational hygiene point of view? Confined space? Yeah, maybe vibration, noise, dust, silica. Yeah, but also if there is a fire in this boring machine, how do you get him out? And here I am then as a safety engineer, I monitor the noise. I tell the medical doctor, this noise level is 100 decibel. You have to examine the hearing and we have to prevent, but also the dust. We have to find out what kind of dust it is. And there you come into medical examination. And the medical examination of dust and noise and so on cost about 200 euro in Sweden. But we have to have professional who makes that. There is another interesting thing. You don't evacuate immediately all the staff in this tunnel bore machine. If it's a lot of smoke, you have to ventilate out the smoke. And therefore, we have to have like an emergency chamber. Then we have to train the people how to go to the emergency chamber and how to deal with things. So there is some of the new working environment which requires both more knowledge among the supervisors, medical staff. The latest big plant I worked with was a solar plant. And can you imagine you should assemble 100,000 solar panels? The workload of people lifting, screwing, is enormous. And you have to probably change people to do this work, and you try to find new ways of lifting the material. But also, as you see here, there is a pole which you should say, you press it down, and there is a lot of noise. So we monitored the noise level there. And this was Turkish people. They have never heard of any hearing impairment or any safety. They just used some earmuffs. The noise level was so high when they were doing these movements. So the earmuffs was not enough, meaning that we had to send these people to the medical examination of the hearing losses. And we found out that people had hearing losses. And then they have to get some sort of compensation from the insurance company. In the way of doing some, should we say, risk assessment, I often use a very simple form here. I'm trying to describe the risk and then what kind of probability and consequences is it for this risk and what can we do? And when we have done this, what is the risk level still there? In construction work, we always have to have occupational safety and health plan. And that requires quite a lot in the planning process and during the execution process. And that's where my specialty is nowadays, to write this kind of, should you say, OMP, we call it, or occupational safety and health plan. Then we come to the medical examination. In Sweden, we have, should you say, in our normal regulations, provisions, it's referred to if the noise level is too high or if you are exposed to asbestos and so on, it refers to this specific provision on medical examination. And that contains requirement on medical examination on vibration. So first, I, as a safety engineer, I make an evaluation. Is there a specific risk for vibration? Okay, I found out. I can maybe monitor it, but then we have to send the person for medical examination to see if they get the white finger and so on. The same with hand-intensive work. If you work like in this solar park, screwing 200,000, screws, then you will have a problem with your joints. There has to be medical examination of that. Night work, for example, should also be medical examination, a certain amount of hours. And there are others like chemicals, which can be allergic to you. There are said in the safety, should we say, safety and health declaration of the substance. You can read out actually if there is a specific health issue, like we have a number 8317. Okay, if you have that in this declaration, then you have to send them to medical examination, for example. And then you have also examination if these chemicals requires a serviceability certificate. So person is not allowed to work with this substance if they don't have the medical doctor's certificate on you can work. So there are two different levels. Can say a little bit general medical examinations for some chemicals, but some chemicals are so dangerous that you have to have serviceability certificate. The same with fibrosis inducing dust like asbestos or silicose. You have to have this serviceability certificate. Other part is metal. And lead, for example, you have to have certain type of examinations, and also biological exposure control. You know, you can take urine, some of chemicals, you have to take the blood. And great physical effort of work, what I said, you're climbing a lot, wind powers. And also, if a lot of people are sick at the workplace, it requires that you make a medical examination also. You make an inquiry and you make medical examination, and you're trying to find out what is the cause. Quite often it has been mold from material, construction material, for example. Or asbestos is something which we have used for a long time in Sweden. Now we are taking it away. But taking it away means that you have exposure. And especially in nuclear power stations, which I have been working, we have a lot of asbestos. And it can cause pleural plaque, lung cancer, mesothelioma, and so on. And that is very important that we examine that people working with this don't get this type of diseases. So we have to make risk assessment for silicosis. And as you know, silicosis cannot be cured. And therefore, we have restrictions on exposure in minutes and certain threshold limit values in the area. But then the risk assessment here is done by me, and then the doctor is doing the medical examination, and we found out if there is any causes. We can also go to investigation on noise. The noise level has certain limits. And I took my noise level meter one day when we had a dinner with Indonesian women, and I monitored the noise because they were laughing, having fun, you know. I monitored 100 decibel in having fun level. Of course, it's not every day's exposure, but it is that level, like a motor saw. So this is also something which we have a combination of medical doctors, hearing impairment, but also other type of physical effects on noise on your body. It can be. Yes. Yeah. So if you're going to be able to prevent, for example, vibration, we have to develop short instructions and clear informations for the workers, you know. So I saw this kind of vibrating equipment, and I know that this can only be used for 3-4 hours a day, and then it will cause. So I made more investigation how many of these tools there were and different type of tools. And we found out that people cannot work with these tools in such an amount they are doing. So we had to reduce and have organize people to work less and less. Also to find out, are there any other tools that can be used with less vibration? And there were. Other legislation we have in Sweden is actually health examination of flight personnel in civil aviation. So in our occupational health centers, we need to have medical doctors who can do this kind of examination, because it's required according to the law, you know. Then we have provision directed at medical practitioners. So if you're going to make certain medical examination, you have to have certain training. And that's where we today have a lack of trained medical staff to do these examinations. And that's why our occupational health service is not that good as we can hope for, because we're lacking the medical staff here, for example. So this is what it can look like in an occupational health center. We have special room for hearing. We have special for breathing, special room for medical examination. And if you look into our legal aspects, it is explained what is diving work, hazardous chemicals, and so on. So it's explained in the legislation as such, you know. What I have done and put in your in your USB stick is that we have done a lot of checklists on medical checkups, on health examination. We have checklists on work-related injuries. We have checklists on organizational and social work. We have checklists for the occupational health services, and how you do a general safety inspection in an office and first aid. These are on your USB stick. And it looks like this, the form as such, you know. So you can be familiar with it. But I also made a lot of reference material connected with our inspection authority and so on. And there is a specific free online course about the working environment, which has developed on between different universities. So you can actually go in on this freelance course and make this course, and you will get a diploma. We use this course for our bachelor degree students. There are quite a lot of information I'm handing over to you here. And here I'm especially proud of, because here is the basic training material which we have developed, which over 1 million people in Sweden has gone through, both employer and employees. That's why the collaboration is actually the success factor for preventing accidents. But unfortunately, we have not been good enough for preventing occupational diseases causing death in advance. So I hope you will also be working long time in this field of area. And I sometimes go to the workplace at Santa Claus to give them the Swedish cookies and glögg. So thank you for presentation. So I understand that you can ask questions and.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Bambang. And maybe I will turn off the overhead projector, and then please have a seat here, and we will have a discussion.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is a very nice presentation, and I would like to inform to the audience that Pak Bambang gave many reading materials, including a checklist form, and it will be available in the Prodi MKK Secretariat. So maybe later Mbak Ami will distribute the material to the participants. Maybe we can download from cloud or something, and it is free to use. Okay, it's free to use by Pak Bambang. Thank you so much.
And all the pictures in the presentation, if you would like to take it out and use for like explaining a case, you can take out the pictures from the presentations and discuss,
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. And first, maybe for the question and answer session, I would like, because there are more people in the online, so I would like to ask from the online participant, you may raise your hand and talk directly. I think we can hear from you. We have a speaker here. Okay. So anyone would like to ask a question from online? If you would like to type your question, it is okay for you to type. Jadi boleh pakai chat ataupun uh, untuk bicara langsung. Silakan, apakah ada yang ingin bertanya? Boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia juga kalau memang pengen pakai bahasa Indonesia atau menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Dipersilakan yang peserta online. Saya hitung dulu nih. 1, ada nggak? 2, sudah ada? Kalau belum ada, maybe from offline participant. Please, Dr. Oki. I think you should come forward so online participant can hear your question. Sini aja kali ya, Pak.
Thank you so much, Pak Bambang, for such an interesting lecture for us. I am very intrigued for the the drilling process, especially it is in the underground mining, yes, with the 5-meter drill holes. I am kind of curious about what kind of measurement that is appropriate for us to understand the particles, the dust particles that is in there. Is that we are examining the rock first to understand what are the composition, because we know that silica is one of the major and common materials, right, in the earth surface, consisting 10 to 12%. Is it examining the rock material is enough for us to understand what could be the dust particles, or we should do the direct environment measure while we're doing the drilling process?
Actually, I think your question is very, very good and interesting, because normally the rock can be different from distance to distance, but try to find out if there are specific rocks with a lot of high contents of silicas first. And then the second is that we make the total dust examination. So you have that level, and then we examine the total silica. So we make like 3 examinations. Before starting the work, the rock examination, then during total dust, and then silica.
And for the total and the silica, it's done within the drilling process.
Yeah, today you monitor it on the people, yes, but we have nowadays other equipment, so we can make it a total dust with like a laser beam measurement.
Yes.
Yeah, like laser beam, yeah. And that means that you can follow if the total dust is varying during the drilling operation. But you have to have a complementary with this analysis also.
Okay.
And then these tunnel bore machines, they are driven by electricity. So you don't get any fuel fumes out of it. But if you have drilling operation and blasting, then you have fumes from the explosives, but you have also fumes from the machineries who are unloading and drilling. So there you have to examine that type of fumes in the air also, the exposure from exhaust of engines. Nowadays, they have more and more electric machineries, so there will be less and less. But big cargoes should go in and out. There might have also diesel engines, so you have to check on that fume if you have that kind of machineries.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Pak Bambang. Maybe waiting for a question from both from the online and offline participants. I'm interested in your statement that there is a need, a collaboration between the employee, trade union, and also the OSH professional. And it is very tricky. I mean, labor union in Indonesia or trade union in Indonesia are not yet, I mean, getting involved in this kind of OSH activity. So what is your suggestion for these matters?
Yeah, I have seen that in many countries like Thailand, Pakistan, India, and so on, that the less activities and less trade unions are there. But as an OSH professional, you have to try to find a way to inform the trade unions. If you are coming with your expertise and explaining this and this and this, you have to get your workers aware of, then they might be interested in going out, showing that the trade union also is interested. But you have a heavier duty here in Indonesia to inform workers, inform employers than I have in Sweden, because the trade unions in Sweden, they are very well educated, so they can be complementary to my advice.
Yeah.
Is that maybe
Okay.
an answer?
So to make it balanced,
Yeah.
we as an OSH professional should work harder here.
More complex.
More complex tasks. Okay. Okay. But we have now some of our colleagues. They are sitting in the trade union. So maybe later on, a trade union can have more participation in the
preventive approach.
right. Okay. I'm inviting again question from the online participants or offline. Is there? For online participant, you can use, there is a question. Thank you, Mr. Bambang. I'm Edwin, student of the Master of Occupational Medicine study program. I want to ask about the regulation of biomonitoring in Sweden. If a company or industry needs some biomonitoring for their workers, who does the examination? It is the government independent laboratory or private laboratory or other healthcare facilities. And who set the threshold value or the standard?
Well, good questions here. Because biometric examination is done, for example, for mercury, for metals, and so on, and that is done by, first of all, the healthcare system, the occupational healthcare centers, for example. They take the samples, urine samples, or blood samples, but it is examined often by the private laboratories. So the occupational health centers don't have their own laboratory facilities. It's done by a private.
Right.
Yeah.
And paid by the employer.
The employer has to pay. Because if I, as a safety engineer, say, you have to high level of this, then the medical doctor will examine. I might have a proof because I make the fume or the investigation of the air quality. And then I can motivate why it should be a medical examination. And then the doctor make the medical examination, maybe lung proof, and then blood samples, and then they send it. But we have to have a report to the authority about if we are going over the limit, and the threshold limits here is done by the work environment authority. Environment authority. So this is Swedish labor inspectorate, should we say, or DEBNAC are setting the limit.
Under the Ministry of
Labor.
Ministry of
Labor,
Labor.
yeah.
Under Ministry of Labor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you have.
It is independent.
Yeah, it's an independent body. So we have a special provision of threshold limits, different kinds, in air and so on. So that's how it works in Sweden, but no government laboratory as such.
Okay.
So the occupational health centers with the medical doctors are very important to get the right samples out.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Bambang. So, Dr. Edwin, I think it is very clear explanation from Pak Bambang. I hope you can understand and you can acknowledge and feel okay about the question. And also on the statistic you showed in your presentation that the occupational disease exists from ergonomics and physical factors has a high proportion compared to the one who are coming from the organization and social factors. But it seemed that based on your explanation, stress or psychosocial factors are contributed quite high. So, I mean, increasing, yeah. So, but how about the occupational disease? Because, I mean, how about the mental health disorder? Because you stated that ergonomics and physical factors related disease has a more proportion than the mental health. Is it correct? Or
Yeah, the mental illness, is very difficult to examine as such and to verify. So what we're trying to see is that if you have an ergonomic issue, then is there any mental illness behind that? Because people tend to look at the body from physical point of view, while it might sit in the head instead. So that's why we have more and more of, should we say, both physical therapists, but also psychological trained people in the occupational health centers.
Okay.
So, for example, one occupational health centers I'm working with, we have one safety engineers, but there are two psychological trained people. And there are 2 physiotherapists. And then there are 3 doctors, but there are 8 nurses. So the proportion here has become more and more trying to see what is the basic background of any type of disease. Might it be also from mental point of view?
So not getting increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you, Pak Bambang. Is there any other question from the online and offline? Online? Oh, from Dr. Rara. Thank you for the interesting presentation, Pak Bambang. I saw in the risk assessment form that you share in the presentation for the question about how many people are exposed to the work, there is a young person group. What is the definition of young person group in this context? Why is it put into the form?
Well, we can say that we normally examine our statistic in age group, and we examine them also in occupational groups when there is an report of an accident. And that's very interesting because we can see that younger men actually has more accidents than younger women. And why is that? You younger men here, why are we more exposed to accidents?
Careless or
Reckless or macho or so there is actually a macho attitude which causes more accident among younger men, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why if we make the different statistics, we can see different factors, you know. And then we have another factor, that's elderly women actually getting higher accidents and occupational diseases than younger women, because they have been working, they have had children, and they have been working double. So there are a lot more influence of stress and physical exposure for them. So you can see that on the statistics that you have an increase among elderly women also. So it's important to check on the age, not only the branch, but also age.
And how is your standard? I mean, the cutoff for the young age group population, under 40 or?
Yeah, under 30, I would say. Yeah, we used to take up to 30, and then between 30 and 40.
Okay, thank you, Pak Bambang. Okay, so if your age is more than 30, so please don't be no, don't be baper that you are not young anymore.
I have another statistic issue, and falling at workplace, you know, causes some fatal injuries. But when you retire, falling at home causes 10 times more fatal injuries than falling at workplace. So that means that it's more dangerous to be retired than to work from falling point of view.
Okay. So please try to work as long as possible as you can. Yeah. So please avoid to be retired. Okay. Maybe I have a last question. We have many students who are practically they are working as a company doctors. Oh, There is a question. Okay. From Dr. Dodi Stefanus. It is interesting that you mentioned physiotherapists. In my current company, we have one physiotherapist which mainly for sport injury or medical physiotherapy. Can you share about occupational physiotherapy assessment or program that may be become our reference about physiotherapists? Please, Pak Bambang.
We normally use the physiotherapists nowadays to be in prevention, meaning that they are going out at workplaces. They are looking at how people are sitting in the office. They are training people how to lift heavy materials. So we get more practical issue of the work to prevent rather than to rehabilitate, you know.
Yeah.
But if they are also doing the rehabilitation, they will understand going out to the workplace, what should be done. And they are more expert than me as a safety engineer in the movements of people, in the lifting and so on. Although I have some knowledge, I can make some correction, but the physiotherapist is the best to motivate and to see what needs to be done at the workplace. And they can also be involved in planning of a new workplace, how to set up, you know, the workplace from industrial point of view when you are having repetitive work, for example. They can be very good in, and even they can improve the productivity by giving the right advice at the industrial sites.
Oh, very nice. And it is quite new for us that physiotherapists can extend their work among preventive action. And that is, I think, a very good example for us. And maybe Dr. Dodi can start the collaboration with the physiotherapists in their work to start the preventive action. Yes, more preventive occupational physiotherapy program, Dr. Dodi. Okay, Dr. Dodi, I hope you copy the answer. And because due to the time, but I think this important question I have. I mean, because most of the doctor here are they are practitioner, and each annually they have to do health risk assessment, and you introduce how the HTO aspect in related with the intervention program. I mean, like aspect related with the human technology and also organization. I have two questions. The first one, what practical calculation method that you use to calculate the risk when you are doing health risk assessment? This is the first one. And when do you implement the HTO approach in the health risk assessment program? So I think it can conclude also your lecture. Yeah.
Okay. Very much of my risk assessment is based on experience and statistics. So I had to find out statistics from different branches. If I go into metal industry, I have to find out what kind of statistics there are on injuries and diseases. So I have that in the background when I'm doing the risk assessment, when I'm doing inspections, for example. And in constructions industry, that branch, they yearly give out new statistics. So I can go and see, oh, now it has changed, you know, we have more ergonomics, more social factors in the background and less machineries and so on. So I can then make the risk assessment from that point of view. So if there are in the statistic more injuries,
Okay.
then I will value that consequences and also the frequency.
Okay. So basically, you are using consequences and frequency,
Yeah.
but the way you calculate it depends on the statistic
Yeah,
Okay.
statistics and also my experience.
Okay.
But the statistics are very important, and I think we have quite good statistics in Sweden because it has to be accident and diseases has to be reported to the government, but
Okay.
also because we have an insurance system.
Okay.
People want to be, should we say, reimbursed for all the cost, and then you have better statistics from that point of view.
And how we integrate the HTO approach in the, I mean, when you delivered a suggestion or something, how we integrate in the health risk assessment process?
We actually have different ways of doing it, but in the systematic work environment management, we have to have a yearly based action plan.
Yearly basis.
Yeah. But if we find through inspection there is an urgent need to make something immediately, we have to take it up directly with the employer. And then we say it's a serious risk. You have to do something. If the employer is not doing any action and there will be an accident, for example, then the authority will come and make an inspection. And they will find out that it has been a proposal from me, you didn't follow it, okay, you will be fined a certain kind of money. Can be between $4,000 up to $50,000. And also, there, for example, in asbestos, you cannot send a person to work with asbestos without this certification of serviceability. And if they are sending someone to do that, they can be fined directly. We call it sanction fee. And that can be also between $4,000 up to $50,000. So if you come as a medical officer and you are actually seeing that there is a failure from the employer, you can not only say you have to do it because it's needed because of the health of the worker, you can also say you have to do it because it's a legal requirement and you will be fined heavily. So you have both the carrot and you have the whip, so to say.
Okay, thank you. We have 4 minutes, but we have a question. Wait a second. Three. Oh, three. Thank you, Pak Bambang, for the. I was wondering in Sweden how many time health risk assessment conducted in a year, considering that it is a 4-season countries. Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. You can say that we don't have any compulsory general health examination. You have to have a health examination because of certain reason.
Yeah.
It can be a reason that many people are sick, then you have to order a health examination. But the general health examination is not required in Sweden. So you have to go and see in the legal system, okay, you're working with this, or you have been exposed with vibration or noise, then you come into a health examination requirements. So that's one of the reasons. And of course, if you work in north of Sweden, it's minus 40 degrees, and you have to work outside, you probably should check up so you're not frozen your nose or anything like that afterwards. But normally there is no health examination if it's not in the collective agreement between a trade union and employer. For example, working in cold climate, You normally say you should not work below -20 degrees outside without any pause and so on.
Okay. And the next one is which one in Sweden, which one have the greater prevalence of accident? New employee or employee with a young age or both of them? Huh?
Yeah.
So
New employee, young male, and without any training is probably the
higher.
one, yeah,
Okay.
higher. But also, we have quite a number of foreign workers in Sweden, and I worked with a lot of these international companies, and you can see there is another attitude towards safety at workplace. That means that you have to spend quite a lot of time explaining, instructing, following up of these workers, and that has nothing with the age to do. That has to do with the attitude of the culture of the country they're coming from, you know.
And the last question is about the physiotherapists again.
Yeah.
What is the practice in the Sweden, whether the physiotherapist is employed within the company or it is come from a third party provider?
Normally, the physiotherapists comes from the occupational health center. They are employed in the occupational health center as such, you know. But there are also quite a number of independent physiotherapists who work directly in the company. Very seldom you see employed physiotherapists working within the company, except larger companies like Volvo, Scania, and so on. They have their own, so to say, occupational health centers within the company. Otherwise, the physiotherapists are in independent occupational health centers, and then having customers, they go to different customers.
Okay. Okay. I think because it's already 11 a.m., it is we have to end our session. And thank you very much, Pak Bambang, for your coming and also giving us, I think, many new information and insight for us in the point of view of safety engineer for us as a medical doctors who are majoring in occupational safety and health. Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak. Okay, and give applause to Pak Bambang. And for the last, there is a kind of small present for us. Maybe Professor Dewi, as a head of study program, can. Ini kali ya, Pak? Atau di itu di behind.
Okay.
Oke, saya rasa untuk yang di Zoom kita bisa tutup sebelumnya dengan berfoto bersama. Nanti Mas Anjar jadi kita akan foto offline dan juga nanti dengan yang ada di Zoom mungkin bisa yang masih ada untuk menyalakan kameranya, kita berfoto bersama. Bapak Ibu Prof Dokter yang ada di Zoom, kami foto 3, 2, 1, slide yang kedua, 3, 2, 1. Oh ya, ya siap. Kami ulang lagi yang di online untuk slide pertama, 3, 2, 1. Ya, slide kedua, 3, 2, 1. Ya, sudah diambil. Terima kasih banyak.